This fall, the brightest minds in finance will flock to Florida for a weekend that will change your life, with insights from the brightest stars in the financial universe and an event that will bring them all together. Presenting the first annual T3 Live Finance Festival at the MAYFAIR Hotel and Spa in Coconut Grove, Florida, for a weekend you'll never forget and memories that will last a lifetime. The Finance Festival, a Todd Harrison production, brought to you by T3 Live and TradeStation. A portion of the proceeds to benefit the Ruby Peck Foundation for Children's Education and the CROHN'S and COLITIS Foundation of America. Friday, November 6th, Sunday, November 8th, 2015. Bring your spouse, tell your friends, make some noise, and take charge of your financial future. It's gonna be nuts. Space is limited, so act fast. Early bird discount registration ends August 31st, 2015.
Good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to today's Daily Recap. I'm Evan Lazarus, and I'm going to continue on the heels of the conversation I started. And by conversation, me doing a video is not much of a conversation, as nobody's talking back, but sort of the dialogue that I opened this morning about this market. And this market continues to, I would say, frustrate the best of the best, in that it's, this market is built to kill right now, in that it is very tactical and it is a very short-term market. You have, a couple of days down, followed by a couple of days up, followed by a couple of days down, and the ebb and the flow continues to just wreak a lot of havoc. Now, we are potentially, you have to acknowledge the fact that, we did make a lower high here. And we'll need, in more time, I think this will probably play itself out. I think in the short term, this is an area, you need to key on, as if the resistance up here isn't strong enough. You now have a bit of a lower high in place, turning down today. And as I zoom in and show you more detail in terms of the intraday, we sold off for better part of the session, sat at lows from about 1 o'clock into the last 30 minutes. This is a 15-minute chart, so you can see that push coming all within the last 30 minutes of the trading day. So, lack of follow-through, even on the smaller time frames, continues to be hard to come by. So, this tape is definitely not built for everybody. Obviously, the intraday traders probably enjoying this more so than the trend-oriented type of traders, but it is what it is, and the market's going to do what the market's going to do. We just have to kind of sit and ride it out until at such time there's a more advantageous, break of the range. In terms of today, what we saw today, big move down today in Apple. Apple starting to, push lower today, volume coming up on today's sell-off, as we did take out this low from our last prior swing low here from early July, and Apple, potentially starting to look like there's some cracks in the seam. And as we go and look at a higher time frame, here I'll bring up a weekly chart, you can see the stock looks to me like it has, potentially hit a pretty substantial wall of resistance up here, and is now beginning to turn down. Now, as we've seen many times, these pullbacks are, ultimately opportunities to get involved. But the next real, support zone that I would keep an eye out is the stock maybe heading back into that lower 100 range. Again, this is a weekly chart, and it doesn't necessarily mean it's going to go straight down. It may bounce, make a higher low, but then turn down. So we looks to me like we've really have come out of this range to the downside, and that could be an impetus for the market to ultimately follow suit, as Apple's a very widely owned, very watched symbol, and does carry a lot of market weight. Also, on the material side, specifically oil, integrated oil, oil and gas, Exxon, breaking lower today, and oil names have been just considerably weak for a pretty long time here. Chevron, another one, you can see what's going on here, and pretty much anywhere you look, Conoco, Schlumberger, all stocks, either breaking down or pointing like they are heading lower. So Apache and the list goes on and on and on. Devon Energy, Baker Hughes. No matter where I look, there's definitely some selling going on in many of the oil and gas or integrated oil names. So keep your eye out, obviously, on what's happening there. So the foundation, our market is definitely a very fractured market. Semiconductors still continue to look weak and act weak. So it's a bit of a ride out there, for lack of a better way to say it. And the only way to engage on the ride is to have a very strategic plan as to, approaching different sectors, different names, with different approaches. And you can't just make blanket statements and say, I want to be long. And even though the market still, kind of holds itself intact in terms of the overall long-term trend, and I'll just use the spiders for that as an example. The foundation internally, there's definitely some very stealth bear markets happening in here. So for what it's worth, on the long side of the equation, banks I didn't really see much participation today from banks. Let me actually go back to the daily time frame here. Goldman pushing lower early in the session, but coming back, and some of the other bank names relatively flat to weak on the day. JP basically flat on the day. Wells Fargo flat, basically flat on the day. So you're seeing, some of the banks kind of hold in there. So it really is a very mixed bag. You have a very quiet, continuous rally in Disney. Disney continues to just make, higher highs at every turn, every chance it has. So, like I say, and biotech, you have Biogen on the heels of that big gap down, starting to push back. And a trade above this earnings high around 327 could present an opportunity for a little bit of a snapback trade there. So pick and choose your battles wisely in this tape, as that is the only real, what I perceive to be the only real sensible approach. You can't just, like I said earlier, make blanket statements about being net long or being net short, as it really is, very, very stock specific in this tape. So with that, I hope everybody has a nice day, and we'll be back tomorrow. Enjoy.